We are going to turn to Ukraine's stunning and complex drone attack on Russia, reaching deep inside the country, delivering both a military and strategic blow to Moscow. According to Ukrainian officials, Ukraine was able to smuggle drones into Russia, place them on trucks, and then remotely launch them to strike Russian military facilities. The strike, dubbed Operation Spiderweb, involved 117 drones and more than 18 months of planning, resulting in the damage or destruction of 41 Russian aircraft, according to Ukraine's security services. NBC News has not been able to independently verify those claims. Now, President Zelensky was in Lithuania today for a summit with European leaders and touted the operation's success.
Europe, together with America, has better weapons than Russia. We also have stronger tactical solutions. Our Operation Spiderweb yesterday proved that. Russia must feel what its losses mean. That is what will push it toward diplomacy. And when Russia takes losses in this war, it's obvious to everyone that Ukraine is the one holding the line, not just for itself, but for all of Europe.
Meanwhile, Russia and Ukrainian officials met in Istanbul today for a previously scheduled second round of direct peace negotiations. Joining me now is NBC News Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons and Richard Haass, the President Emeritus at the Council on Foreign Relations. So, Keir, what more do we know about this attack by Ukraine and the planning that went into it?
Oh, well, it's stunning. You really have to just think about how big Russia is. 11 time zones. Just to give you an example, Ryan, I've been broadcasting from, the far east of Russia, in the direction that some of these attacks took place, in the evening on the East Coast, and it's been the morning in Russia. I mean, that's how far away it is, just from Ukraine, for example, thousands of miles, so far away that it looks like the Russians were not actually protecting these aircraft, despite them being precious to President Putin. These are long-range strategic bombers, nuclear capable even, and certainly have rained down horror on Ukrainian cities over many years. So for the Ukrainians, this is a victory in terms of, frankly, a humiliation of the Russians, but also a strategic, a tactical victory at least, in the sense that they say that they have hit a third of these Russian bombers. Now, I think it will take time to establish exactly how much damage there was, but they brought these trucks in like Trojan horses, clandestine, loaded with these drones, and then remotely controlled them. There were reports even that Russian truck drivers were not told, drove the trucks and were not told what they were for. This is something that the Ukrainians have proven pretty good at in many ways, targeting, for example, generals in Moscow. But this is on a different scale, and it's having a different impact.
And how is Moscow responding to these losses?
Well, President Putin is calling it terrorism. Russia is also saying that where Ukraine says that its operatives were able to leave Russia after, kind of preparing this attack, Russia says that it has made arrests. Those are the kinds of responses you'd expect. What we haven't heard so far is the kind of question of retribution that you might hear from President Putin in the days ahead. Interesting to hear President Zelensky in that clip you played there talk about that this kind of showing of strength is a way to get the Russians to the negotiating table. We will see. So far, some notable victories by Ukraine over the years haven't got Russia to the negotiating table, but then neither has the attempt by the Trump administration to kind of cajole President Putin to talk to him, and President Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff spent hours with him. That doesn't tonight appear to have had an impact either, because after talks in Istanbul, it looks like the Russians still are not offering to compromise.
Okay, Keir Simmons, thank you for that. Let's move to Richard now. Richard, were you surprised to see Ukraine carry out such a complex attack like this? And what does it tell us about Ukraine's capabilities? Are they more robust than we thought?
Well, Ukraine has been, in some ways, the principal developer of new generations of drones. Indeed, militaries all over the world, not of drones, I'm sorry, of losing the word here, these technologies. And I think they're being studied, all over the world. And so this is, it shows that you don't have to fight a war tank for tank or aircraft for aircraft. So Ukraine is doing it with great ingenuity. They've also showed their ability to expand the battlefield, not through the range of the systems, but by getting them inside of Russia. So it's an extraordinary accomplishment. And it has one other advantage that we haven't discussed. It takes care of some of the defeatism. One of the arguments you hear from President Trump all the time is Ukraine has a terrible hand. It's got bad cards. And by doing this, Ukraine is basically signaling to the world, if you support us, you're not throwing good money after bad. This is not a hopeless cause. We can hold our own. And to the extent that that gets self-fulfilling, that gets adopted, then it's a really powerful thing for Ukraine.
How do you think President Putin will react to this? And how could Moscow retaliate?
Well, they are going to react. It seems to me it is something of a humiliation. I think there's no chance that this in and of itself moves Putin closer to the negotiating table. If he ever moves to the negotiating table, he wants to do it from strength so he can impose a settlement. This now shows a degree of tactical weakness. So I think he's going to unleash something very large, if not against Ukrainian military forces, quite possibly against population centers. That's the way he's been fighting this war. He's been fighting in the East, grinding, literally meter by meter. But a big part of his war plan is to attack civilian targets throughout the country. And that's easier for him to do than to show progress in the East. So my guess is we are going to see some very cruel, violent attacks, not so much against military targets, but against industrial and civilian targets throughout Ukraine.
On a separate but related issue, Poland conducted elections over the weekend. The pro-Trump conservative candidate won there. Poland has been an important ally for Ukraine. They've taken in thousands of Ukrainian refugees. Is there a concern that perhaps Poland's posture could change as it relates to Ukraine as a result of the results of this election?
Change is a little bit too strong, but yes, the president can frustrate in Poland's democracy quite a lot of the initiatives of the government. They can veto certain things. So it's not as though Poland's going to become pro-Russia, but it might become slightly more difficult for Poland to be as pro-Western as it has been, whether in its ties to Europe in particular. So yeah, I think this is a setback. It's interesting. The Trump administration goes to the Middle East and talks about how it's not going to get involved in domestic politics of other countries. Clearly, that doesn't apply to Poland or to Germany, for that matter. And there, they got the outcome they wanted.
Okay, Richard Haass, thank you for that. We appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.